Now, Ben, with a golf gear review, this is actually my favourite part of the game.
Yes.
The wedges.
The wedges, how good.
And there's so much to choose from and there's a variety of what you can put in your bag, but how do you decide? I mean, going from something from your pitching wedge and all the way up to your lob wedge, you need to get those gaps right.
Absolutely right. So always start with the loft of your pitching wedge. Normally it's going to be around the 46-degree mark. Then you want to get your gaps right. So if you've got a 46-degree pitching wedge, you're probably going to go into something 50, 54, 58, for example. So really important to get those lofts right.
And the wedges are made up a little bit differently, and we talk about bounce. Talk to me about the concept of bounce.
Yeah, so we have low, mid and high bounce, you know. So the bounce is the bottom of the club and how rounded the bottom of that club is. So when we have high bounce, that's really good for soft conditions where the club would dig into the turf. The high bounce will help the club bounce through the turf and launch the ball in the air. Low bounce, when you're sort of 6 to 8 degrees of bounce, is really sharp. So really good for your firmer conditions where the club's bouncing anyway and you want it to dig in to launch the ball.
Okay.
So low bounce, we're digging in, normally on your lower lofted clubs, like your 50 degree, your 54. And then when you go into your sort of higher degrees of loft, like your 56s and your lob wedges, using them out of bunkers, you're going to have higher bounce.
Okay, and then talk to me about your handicap and the degrees that you use. So if I'm off, say, 27, 36,
yeah.
What are your thoughts on me having a lob wedge?
Well, I think a lob wedge is very useful. However, you need speed to use a lob wedge, right? So your really high handicappers, you're probably only going to go up to something about 56 degrees. And then for your better players, you go into your 58s and your 60s. So it's really important to get that loft right, your gaps 46, 50, 54 example, but also get your bounces right. So turf conditions, number one, like we spoke about, but number two, also, if you're a bit of a digger, if you're quite steep on the ball and dig into the turf naturally, then you should generally have higher bounce.
Okay.
If you skim the ball off the turf, you find it hard to take a divot, then get the lower bounce, sort of your 6 to 8 degrees.
Okay, well, let's take a look at the variety we've got here. You've got everything from like the high toe, the tailor-made, and all the different materials and colours that you are available. Yeah,
it's really interesting. So you've got like your chrome finishes and also your rusty sort of finishes. What I find interesting, this is the Callaway Jaws. Really high toe on it, really different look, almost looks like a Dorito or a corn chip. And you've got your grooves that go all the way to the end. So that's quite good sometimes if your high handicapper is getting it off the toe a little bit. The grooves are for spin. So if you get a little bit out of the toe, generally, where there's no grooves, you're not going to get a lot of spin on it. But here, quite forgiving, get it off the toe, it's still going to spin a bit. So why don't we give one a little crack? Okay, I didn't launch too high. 10 degrees of bounce, quite good for these turf conditions.
And it cut through the turf quite nicely.
Cut through the turf quite well. So we go to something like the tailor-made, 58 degrees. So 11 degrees of bounce.
Yes.
Okay, so quite sort of a mid-range of bounce, right? So that's going to help me still get through the turf, but not dig too much. So
nice.
The Mizuno, the T22, copper finish, really different look. The groove's obviously not going all the way to the toe, but on this one, it's a 60 degree. I've got 10 degrees of bounce. If I'm using this in the bunker or around the greens a fair bit, I want that bounce to be reasonably high because, especially when the bunkers are soft, high bounce is your friend. If the bunkers are firm, you play somewhere where they're really firm, it's hard to get into that bunker, then lower bounce will help you too.
Nice shot.
That's a better one.
Great shot.
Like that. So just to clarify, Bree, if you are going to buy them online, obviously getting fitted's preferable, but just find out your turf conditions at your golf club. Is it soft? Is it hard? Are you a digger? Do you find it hard to take a divot? That's going to really help you with your bounce and your lie options.
Absolutely, and feel is really important with the wedge, so it might be an option to go and trial some.
Absolutely, look and feel. Your pro shop will have a demo club for you. Go into your Drummond Golf store and try a few out.